Welcome back to the weekly CeltsAreHere flagship podcast. It's a different look to us today. It's myself, Declan, and for a change, I'm not a young person on this. Quinny, not here today, as you can see. I've got Ryan on, who's been on the channel before. Ryan, good to have you back. And I've got Aaron, who you will know from writing on the site and attending press conferences. So, Aaron, this is your first time in a pod. Well, hopefully, me and Ryan's old timers at this, but we'll make sure you're all right and we'll get through it. I've already been on, spoken about the cup final, did the reaction on Monday, so everybody's pretty much had to heard what they had, my piece on it. So I want to hear both your pieces on it. Brian, I'll come to you first. Talk to me about your day. Tell me about your trip to Hampden. We were all at the game. Tell me about your day first. Leave the actual game to the side. Tell me about your day.
No bother. So thanks for having me on, by the way. Waking up, I get a lift into Hampden with my uncle. It's a bit of a carpool sort of situation. So I've got my uncle, my cousins, my dad. We all go to the game together. Couldn't think of anything else couldn't think of anybody else to have at the game rather. So travelling into the game, just walking down to Hampden, have a couple of beverages as you do. And in the game, sort of endured the game more than enjoy the game, but enjoyed it once it was done, and then a wee night out after. So all in all, it was a good day. And in the middle of it, Celtic got another trophy, so can't complain whatsoever.
Yep, another trophy we'll talk about. 22 trophies in 11 years. There's been a complete meltdown this week. We're doing this on the Friday. It's just added another day of meltdown to it. And you also bumped into some famous faces in your way up the road, didn't you? On Sunday night, Monday morning, should I say?
I did.
We'll not say what time it was at and where it was at, but you bumped into some famous faces, eh?
I certainly did, yeah. I met about half the Celtic team coming out of a nightclub that I won't name, which was brilliant. You know, I'm glad that they're all enjoying themselves.
Yep.
Great guys, Jota, Alistair Johnson especially stopping for a photo. So thanks very much to him. But a great bunch of guys, and you can see that the team is all together, even on nights out, which is absolutely brilliant. That's what you want to see, and long may that continue. Hopefully they've got more nights out to go to at the end of the season as well.
Hopefully plenty more nights out to come. Of course, it's always an important part of football, that, as you say, being a collective, being a squad, enjoying your success on the park and obviously off the park. So good to hear. And as long as I return to training, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Tuesday, I'm sure the manager would have been quite happy with that. Aaron, tell me about your day. You seem to enjoy yourself for what I've seen, like me. A good day had at Hampden?
It was, good day. Got a bus up with the Sports Club in the morning time. A few drinks in the bus. I think everyone was out to Asda as well, so went to the game. Enjoyed it somewhat, and then that was it pretty much. Early night for me, so.
Early night. Did you not think it was a bit weird? I'm kind of used to League Cup finals particularly, and actually games at Hampden recently being at night time. It was kind of weird being at Hampden during the daytime, wasn't it?
Weird, didn't like it that. I preferred the 5:30 kick-off, to be honest with you, that semi-final.
You're just looking for more time in the pub. Brian, did you same? I found it a bit weird being in there. I mean, obviously, I think the last time we'd have been there during the day must have been the Scottish Cup final in 2019 when Edward scored twice. That surely must be the last time he played during the day at Hampden out with that Rangers semi-final last season.
Well, you know, Hampden in the sun, you know, Celtic have a really good history with Hampden in the sun, so I wasn't complaining too much. And I had more time to go out afterwards anyway, and it was less for us to get into town, which was absolutely brilliant. So either way, I wasn't complaining. I would have went at 4 o'clock in the morning if it meant Celtic got a trophy, so I was quite happy.
Aye, it's quite funny. There's an image going about in social media, and it's where I was sitting. I was kind of at that corner of the stand F2, and everybody's doing the Scotty Arfield, if you will, because everybody's got their hand up here because they can't see. So it was other Celtic fans doing that, and you know, the man that never get in the pitch, it's Canada's second best player in the league anyway. Well, maybe third, actually. It's
true.
Pure and David Witherspoon. Obviously, AJ will get on to talk to, but everybody was giving it that because the sun was so low. Talk about the game then. Aaron, what was your kind of take over the whole piece of the game? You know, Ryan said endure the game. Watching it back, I got a chance to watch it back the other night. I think it's just being in the moment, you're a wee bit jittery, whereas watching it back in the telly, Celtic were in total control of this game, watching it back.
I agree with that one as well. It was a tough watch of the game, but you're always on edge and you can never really relax, especially when they scored their goal to put it back to 2-1 at last. 10, 15 minutes was hard stuff. That, and every time you got the ball, you're just really sit back. You had to. You were anxious almost. So
Yeah, edge of the seat stuff. And it almost became a wee bit uncharacteristic in that, Ryan. We're so used to Celtic getting the ball, picking their passes. Towards the end of the game, we get 2 great chances. We will get on to talk about that, but it became a wee bit uncharacteristic, and I was, shouting and bawling. I just wanted to take the sting out of things. There was one point Joe Hart caught the ball, and I thought, just drop to the ground, take 30 seconds and wait, then let the team regroup, collect, and then go. And right away, typical Celtic, he got the ball and he's thrown it right. I was like, calm bloody down. Even with the subs were on really quickly, Nick Walsh made sure to get Dyson off at the side of the pitch. You just really wanted to take the sting out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You want the game management to come into play, but at the same time, you can see the players, they're desperate to play Ange's style of football. It's so ingrained into them now. They've been doing it for 18 months plus, so it's going to be difficult to sort of shake off those habits, to sort of strangle the game a bit. I don't mind. I mean, as long as you get to the end point, if you start well and finish well, which this Celtic team seems to do time and time again, then we're going to win more games than we lose. That 10, 15 minutes where we lost control in the game was annoying, and it was difficult to watch, especially being in the stadium. But the fact that we only conceded 1 goal, and I think the subs made a big difference in that as well. When they came on, they sort of helped us through the game. So as long as we start and finish games well, then I think we're going to win a lot more than we're going to lose, which is ideal for us and our trophy ambitions.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about those subs, because it was a wee bit different to maybe what we're used to with the subs, even the timing of the subs and the points that they came on. Aaron, in terms of that goal that we did concede, I don't really think there's a lot probably Joe Hart can do about it. I know he's there behind you. He gets a bit of a touch onto the ball. I'm not one to be praising Alfredo Morelos. It's quite a tidy finish, but the celebration's really funny to look back on now. Nobody goes near him, and he's got absolutely tonto.
yeah, and no, I don't think you can blame anyone for that goal at all. I mean, I saw folk trying to blame Aaron Moy. I mean, it probably was a wee bit pushed off the ball, a wee bit pushed out a wee bit easily there.
Flat-footed kind of with the ball when it came over.
But looking back, it was just one of those goals. That was their game plan. Just put the ball in the box, see what happens, then see if they get lucky. And that's exactly what happened. They got lucky, and just one of those wins, really.
It's just one that you put down, draw a line under it. Didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of the game. I know it was a goal back. I don't think Alfredo scored now as many goals as Kyogo in Glasgow Derby games, if not the Rico, which is for a guy
I think they're both on 3.
Eco, and for a guy that does he score against Rangers, that's a pretty decent record there, Ryan with Kyogo. But
yeah,
looking at those
the thing I would say as well, it's his first goal in front of a Celtic crowd as well. It's taken him long enough, I would go as far to say that those goals aren't as important because they weren't scored in front of people. All Kyogo's done is scored in front of people. So I think that ends that argument, if there ever was one between the two.
There's no argument there, but we've heard all the nonsense before, Ryan, about Dembele, Edward. Rangers fans seem really desperate to compare strikers. I don't know why, but they seem to be getting a bit worried and comparing everything else at this point in time. But
there's a big reason why Morelos is still here.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about Kyogo, tell me about him and Sunday, because quiet man, you could possibly say. The pressing that remember you're used to last season certainly hasn't been as big a part of his game maybe this. In terms of just what you're kind of used to, Dyson doing a lot of that work. But Kyogo, when he's needed, he's in the box and he sticks the ball into the back of the net twice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his numbers this season are incredible. What is he on now? 23, 24 goals for the season in all competitions. 24. That's absolutely incredible. You'd expect him to at least hit the 30, 35 goal mark by the end of this season, which is amazing when you think he had an injury as well. I think Dyson's a big part of his game now as well. Dyson does a lot of the work off the ball, which allows Kyogo to just kind of stay in the middle and be be the sort of fox in the box, which is absolutely brilliant for us. And a lot of people were complaining about that in the middle of the season, that he was maybe moving about too much. They wanted Giakoumakis in the team because he would just stay up. But it seems as if since the World Cup, Kyogo's not been doing as much movement. Yes, he's been doing movement in the box, but he's always there for a goal. You look at his goal record in the past 2-3 months, it's absolutely incredible. He's doing absolutely brilliant in the team. And he doesn't seem to be missing chances as well. He's taking a lot of the chances that he gets, which is brilliant for the team. And he's well on his way to being the top goal scorer in the league. I think he's running away with it, to be honest. So no complaints here.
Not at all. Lawrence Shanklin's in that mix, but of course a lot of his goals have been for the penalty spot. Kyogo's not scored one penalty this season, so it'll be an interesting contest between both of those. From a Scotland fans' perspective, they'll be happy to see Shanklin scoring goals. Whether he'll be part of Steve Clarke's setup, I don't know, but certainly Kyogo, I fancy to get 30 goals this season easily, maybe more. Aaron, tell me about Kyogo's season, because he's a player that we all took to really, really quickly last season. Scored that hat-trick against Dundee, became a really important player in Ange's team, and this season there was a lot, probably that first part of the season that Ryan's talking about. He missed a good few chances in the Champions League, and a lot of people were maybe growing a wee bit concerned with that. But what has been your take of Kyogo after the World Cup?
He's been unplayable. I think he's definitely one of the best strikers in the league. Well, he is the best striker in the league, one of the best players in the league. He's just scoring goals without even trying now. He's just constantly banging them in. So it's what you want to see from your striker. And he keeps that form up going into next season, you won't be looking at the Champions League and he'll get a good couple of goals, you'd hope. So
yeah, are you hoping that form obviously continues that he's got in the league just now, and he'll be able to take it into European football and be in a better position, in terms of experience as well?
Exactly, because he's got that experience now. He knows what it's like to play on Europe's top stage. So it's now all about building on top of that and learning from it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's something I'm sure he was disappointed about last season, not to get a goal in the competition. And hopefully, as I say, we can continue that form into Europe's elite competition next year. We say that, Ryan, because we're 9 points clear at the top of the league, with absolutely mammoth goal difference, and it looks as if it's all but done. But listen, we won't count our chickens too early, because it seems to be only one team that like to do that. But in terms of the subs, I want to go back to the subs in the game. Really, really interesting. Almost at Celtic Park and in normal league games. You can always put the kettle on. 70 odd minutes, Ange will make 3 subs, and you can have a good stab at who they'll be. But it was interesting after the game to hear him say that bringing O onto the park was a tactical one, in the sense that we changed our game plan a bit when O came onto the park. What did you make of his performance, Ryan, on Sunday?
I think the first thing you can say about O is that he's got plenty of character. 2 minutes in and he's elbowing Rangers players. I don't know what he's been watching before the game, but something's riled him up.
Scott
He's
Brown videos.
Aye, absolutely. He's doing his best Scott Brown impression. I loved his celebrations as well. I don't know if you've seen the Celtic View podcast, but Starfelt was talking about him being one of the best movers in the team, him and Jota being good dancers. Which is it's great to see that he's acclimatised to the team in less than a month. Absolutely brilliant. But in terms of on the park, he got himself about. There was a point where he was just holding the ball up in the corner flag. I'm like, this is absolutely brilliant. This is a guy that understands his assignment when he came onto the pitch. I'm disappointed that he's not scored maybe as many goals as he would have wanted, but that's fine. We're seeing enough in his game to see that he will be a problem in this league in the future. He was causing the defenders problems. He's deceptively quick, I would say, as well, for being a big guy. He can certainly motor about the pitch. But in terms of the first 3-4 games that he's had, very, very promising. I think there's definitely more to come. I mean, at 21 years old, the sky's the limit for him, I would say.
Absolutely. And Giakoumakis, I think when he first came in, it took a while to get going. He didn't properly get going until the January. As you say, I think there's a lot more to O's game than goals. It would have been nice for him to get in the score sheet. Obviously, that game against Aberdeen when he gets his first start. But we're seeing enough in his game, and it was great that, 21-year-old coming on a cup final with a lot of pressures on you, he came on and stuck to his job, and he helped Celtic, because Adam, we spoke earlier about that point in the game, but it was a bit sticky. 10, 15 minutes, Rangers had a wee bit of momentum in their game. Ange noticed that. He noticed that, their backline was starting to become a wee bit more comfortable in taking that step forward, and just kind of pushed them right back, because it then gave Joe Hart somebody to as a target.
Definitely, you could see that as well. But the midfielders just started just putting the ball up, hoping that we get on the end of it, or Haksabanovic would run in behind and pick it up at loose end. So you can clearly see it was kind of helped us get out of that patch, and got us a few chances with Haksabanovic and Matt Riley. And
something I'll ask you, Aaron, in this, everybody says that Celtic's got one style of football, and that's what they stick to. And even if you remember last season when we first went into the Champions League, Ange was asked constantly about, are you going to change this, are you going to change that? But it does show that when push comes to shove, that we do have that in our locker. We just don't like really using it too often.
Yeah, definitely. And what was interesting as well was Ange said that was the players in the park that took that responsibility and decided, we're going to change this up here, we're going to get out this patch, and he allowed them to do that, and that was good to see, reassuring as well from the players.
Ryan, do you think we're at a point, it's a great point that Adam makes here, do you think we're now at a point where the manager completely trusts his players? Obviously, I think there was stages last season where it was still fresh to a lot of them, that inverted fullback role to some of them, the defenders having to play with the ball at their feet, the goalkeeper, what he was wanting his midfielders to do, the press for his forward players, and everything that required. Do you think he's now at a point where he is comfortable in trusting those players to make that call and go and deliver, because they are delivering, and that's the difference now?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you could even make that example. I think it was earlier on this season when Ange says he doesn't go into the Lennoxtown dressing room, because that's Callum McGregor's domain. That's where he operates his business. It's great if that is the case, because it's been ingrained into the players that the system's the most important thing. So if they know what the system is and they can implement it, then they're trusted to do so. I'm quite happy if Ange takes a sort of back seat and sort of just watches from the side. I'm sure that he'll have his own input in certain games, but if the players are trusted, then that's only a good thing in the long term. It's great that you hear that he thinks that there's 4 or 5 captains in the team. It's not just Cal McGregor. You've got Joe Hart, you've got Greg Taylor, you've got other players making sort of moves in leadership. There's so many leaders on that pitch as well as off it, which only bodes well for the rest of the season and the seasons going on. So if they know what they're doing, then I've got no problem with that personally.
That was something that the manager actually says after we won the league. The game at Celtic Park when we lifted the league title was about these players now becoming leaders in their own right, and that progressing into the second season underneath him. I always think back to that game. You both probably remember we played AZ Alkmaar very early stages under Ange in a Europa League playoff game, and if you remember right, Joe Hart runs to him. It's later stages of the game, and I think he's saying to me, Gaffer, I want to play this ball long, because we're getting to a point in the game where it's becoming a bit sticky, and we need to get ourselves out of it. So it's nice to see everything blossoming and coming together. I think we're in a really strong position at this point in time. And one guy, Aaron, I want to talk to about is Haksabanovic. Really unlucky not to get in the score sheet on Sunday. I don't know if you've managed to catch his clip after the game when he's talking. I think it's Celtic TV or whoever. He had a very decent, he wasn't the best player at all, he wasn't the standout, but he had a very decent start to life at Celtic. You could see there's a player there. He was player of the month for November. If you remember right, he got an injury coming back after the World Cup, not featured too often. From my perspective, I don't know about yourself, that's what I'm wanting to ask here is, do you think that Haksabanovic has got a kind of big part to play in this team towards the back end of this season now?
Definitely, I think he can, but it all depends on whether Ange decides to rotate the team or not. I think he's shown that he deserves a place in the team, but it's whether he gets it. But then you've got the midweek game against Hearts coming up, and obviously St Mirren away this weekend. So you're wondering if maybe the cup ties will after that might have a few bits of rotation in this team, and that's when you get his chance to go to it.
We saw a lot of rotation early part of the season, Ryan. It was something that he did quite often. Obviously, we're playing a lot of that midweek Europe into the weekend. The schedule was quite hectic because of the World Cup and all that stuff. Interesting again, he's spoken about the squad building towards being able to play, midweek into weekends again. We're going to have that test next week when we take on Hearts at Celtic Park on the Wednesday. Then we've got them again on the Saturday in the Cup through at Tynecastle. Just looking at the squad and doing that when you're, rotating the squad, a big problem for a lot of people the last time we went to St Mirren was the changes that he made. But I think the squad's in a completely different position from that. We'll talk about St Mirren at the back end of the show, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. But I do think you'll start to see a wee bit more rotation come the end of the season. You're hoping you'll get the league wrapped up early-ish, and you can do that. Another part of it will be, just looking at it, that there's players like maybe a Tony Ralston, a Wata, who's, still very fresh in, they need minutes. I'd be interested to see where they actually get the minutes, but I think it will come because almost Sunday was a marker to me as a kind of another chapter in the book for this season. That got to the cup final, we were playing a strong starting 11 practically every week, building up to it because it was one fixture a week. You've shut that chapter's closed now. You've then got 4 games before the next international break. I think you just look at those 4 games. One of them's a cup game. Let you do your business, and we'll see where we're at after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we're going to come on to him, but I really do want to see more of a Wata. The 4 or 5 times I've seen him already, especially the past 2 or 3 performances, he's really, really impressed me. He's going to be a player that's going to be pivotal in Europe, especially if we're going to play sort of that double pivot with him and McGregor. If we can play that in Europe and get that going, and even in bigger games like against Rangers, I'd love to see him start games next season playing in that role. If we can have that wee bit of protection just behind or just in front of the centre halves, and that would be absolutely brilliant. I think he's 3rd or 4th time lucky with regards to holding midfielders. I've got a feeling that Ange wanted a Wata all along, but he couldn't take too many players out of Yokohama at the one
That's
time.
what he told me. Yep, I asked him about that, and he says he didn't want to do that. His old team had already taken Dyson, so I don't think he wanted to, clear them out at that point in time until they get the end of the season out the way.
Which makes the sort of look of Ideguchi being sort of a calculated punt more plausible, I would say, if he was sort of biding his time. And Abildgaard as well. We had the relationship with Ruben Kazan, with Starfelt and Haksabanovic. So 3rd or 4th time lucky with Awata, but Ange seems to have his man. And I think from the past couple of performances, we've seen how good a player he can and will be for this team. He looks very mature. 25 years old, he's coming into the sort of prime of his career, and I'm really, really excited to see what he can do in this team, especially teaming up with McGregor and Hatate. A midfield 3 of that, with Hatate being the furthest man forward, really, really exciting, especially in Europe.
Yeah, that's a nice lead on, because I do want to talk about our midfielders. I think that double pivot, as you're talking about, double 6, whatever you want to call it, is going to be really important to us. In Europe, it's something that the managers used before. A lot of us probably thought that was where Aaron Moy was actually going to end up. That wasn't the case, Aaron. But Tomoki Awata, he's one like Brian. I'm looking forward to seeing. I thought it was very good on Sunday when he came on.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he had that straight pass when he first got on, but after that, he was straight up to look like he was a real good player. And he really calmed the game down as well. And it was kind of, I think, his introduction kind of helped us keep that 2-1 lead,
Yeah, absolutely. And at that point of the game, it's a kind of player you're looking probably to come onto the park. Turnbull was obviously an option on the bench, but I think Awata was going to be more effective for the type of game and the lead that you were trying to protect. Brian, Rio Hatate, absolutely phenomenal form after the World Cup. He has been absolutely tremendous for Celtic. A big part of, though, the first goal on Sunday, even though the ball from Moy is excellent, is Hatate dragging Rangers wingers all over the place. That then makes Tavernier not know where he is, because he's then got his own players charging towards him with Hatate. He's got Taylor on his bike round his, right hand side, so he's not going to catch him. Dyson Maida's off. He's lost Dyson Maida. Dyson's gone to the shops and came back with the rolls. He's got absolutely no chance of knowing where he is. And there's Aaron Moy, just perfectly placed as he is for the second goal too. Pick the ball up. He says that Taylor's on his bike. I'll play him the ball. Taylor gets the ball at the box. Bang, goal. Really, really effective. And one way to break down a team that was going to pack the midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. You're giving me an excuse to talk about Rio Hatate for 2 minutes here. I could talk about
2
him for
minutes
20
talk
minutes.
as long as you like, Ryan.
I could wax lyrical about this boy. He's my favourite Ange signing, I think, by some distance. I do have other favourites like Starfelt and Jota, but I mean, Hatate is just absolute genius. It feels as if he's our Lubo, our generation's Lubo, in terms of. I know it's tough. I know, but he's technically that good. I don't know if you watched the video. I posted a video last night about 1 o'clock. It was the elegance of Rio Hatate or something like that. It's a 9-minute compilation video of all of Hatate's touches, assists, and goals for Celtic.
Right.
It's a video that if you're going to watch it, you'll be watching it through your fingers, because you're like, every top team is going to see this. I mean, the guy, you feel as if he's almost too good for the league at this point in time. He's strolling games, he's running games in that midfield. You've seen it in his first game against Hibs. I seen him within 20 minutes. You're like, this guy's a player. I looked behind to my dad. My dad was saying the same thing as me. We were like, This guy's a player. This guy's got it. He's my favourite player in this team. I think he keeps us ticking, along with Cal McGregor. Those two keep us ticking. He has the magic. I mean, I'm glad that he's getting the numbers now that his play warrants. He's an absolutely phenomenal football player to watch, and I think he's came back from the World Cup break with a vengeance. This is sort of the revenge tour for him. He's taken it personally that he didn't get picked for Japan, and he's taken it out on every other team, which I have no problem with.
No, none of us do. He's been absolutely sensational. What I was talking about there, Aaron, is here. I'll get it up on the screen for us. I'm doing you right there. I'll get it up, sorry. In a second. He's doing, what the manager wants him, the level that the manager wanted him to get to, and he's still just only going to improve, isn't he? He's just that good a player.
He is, yeah. And Ange had said that when he came to him after he wasn't selected for the Japan squad, Ange had told him he had to get better in the final third. And since then, he's got goals and assists and just keeps on going and keeps on going. And, I mean, from right back, he even got 2 goals that game at Celtic Park. So
yep. He's just going to be getting better and better, Ryan, as you say. But hopefully, people don't take notice of him at this point in time, and he can stay for a long time. I was trying to get this graphic up here. I've got it now. There, I'm covering it as up here, but you can see that there, Ryan. Really, really interesting, because look at what Hatate's doing to that Rangers midfield. Look at Sakala's getting dragged back. Tilleman's dragged right in. He's then going to nip into that space, and it just causes all sorts of havoc for any opposing defence. That
he's very much a sort of football manager player, playing in that fluid sort of position. He's just going all over the park, dragging everybody everywhere with him. The thing is, you can't keep him. You can't unmark him. You can't leave him unmarked anywhere on the pitch. You've got to put pressure on. I think that was the problem with Aberdeen. Aberdeen sat in the last game, or before the Rangers game, they sat off Hatate, and they seen what happened. They allowed him to play that sort of quarterback role, and he was just dictating everything. Now, I think Hatate, he took 20-25 minutes to get into the game, but once he starts motoring, especially in that second half, he just doesn't stop. He's you look at last season, you look at how much he struggled to sort of keep up with the fitness in sort of the latter games. The amount of improvement he's had in his game and improving his fitness. I think the big part as well of it was the fact he'd already played a season in Japan. It was his second or third professional season as a professional footballer. The fact that he's acclimatised so well and he can now last 70, 80 minutes is absolutely brilliant, and it's helping us win games. And he's an absolute joy to watch, and long may that continue. I mean, he's only 25. He is going to get better. He's an exciting prospect.
Yeah, he's a really exciting prospect, and it'll be interesting to see how he does develop and get better, because I think he can go at the very top. Probably a better example of what we're talking about there. You both can see that on the screen. Hatate doing that, this is just probably a couple of seconds later. Sakala's got a bit touch tight to him. If they get Lundstrom and Tilleman not knowing what to do here, that leaves Aaron Moy in plenty of space. That's what I want to talk about next, Aaron. Really, really important to both Celtic goals. You see him kind of as the 10 there. The ball gets played to him. He sees the vision to give the ball to Greg Taylor. It's almost like 2 secondary assists from Aaron Moy, because his pass in my opinion, makes both goals.
Oh, definitely. That was something at the game that I don't know about you, but I never noticed. I thought it was quite quiet in the first half. I was a bit like,
Through the van.
Get Matt Riley on, and then come home, you watch it back, and you're like, wow, this guy we got for free. Look what he's doing that pitch. It's a Rolls Royce of a footballer. He's just unbelievable to watch.
He's a top player, as I say. That's the first goal. Here's the second goal. It's in that 10. He sees Hatate, pick the pass. Hatate's through. And Ryan, we're talking about Hatate kind of being this complete football at this point in time. Could have very easily had a shot, but he sees his teammate and he wants to give him the goal.
I think it's a phenomenal pass to Kyogo as well, because it's first time and he plays it just down to him. It makes Kyogo's job very easy because he puts it on an absolute plate for Kyogo to just finish off and just slide into the net. For Hatate to be in that position, it just shows you the continuing improvement of the player. Because, I mean, in times gone by, he would have just stuck in the midfield, but that just shows you his improvement, that he wants to move forward into the box.
Yep.
And by overflowing that attack, Rangers don't know where to go and they don't know who to mark. I don't blame them. Hatate's they played against Napoli, they've played against Liverpool this season.
Yep.
Hatate will be one of the best players I've came across this season. There's no two ways about that.
Yep, and you can see there, look, Kyogo as well. We talked about him earlier. Finds a gap. Ben Davies has absolutely no clue where he is. And you could have drove a bus through that, looking at that graphic there. I'm sure that was something that the manager gave them a pasting for when they went in and had a wee look back at the video. It's just everything coming together. And Aaron, you spoke there about your namesake and being a free signing. But what do you think? There was a lot of probably not bad press about him when he came in, but people weren't too sure about Aaron Moy when he first came in. But I think he's proven every single doubter wrong, because he's been, he's really added something to this Celtic squad that we didn't have last season.
Definitely. I was one of those doubters as well. He's a 30-year-old midfielder who Ange is signing, 32-year-old midfielder who Ange is signing, who hadn't really played the back half of last season. He was over in China.
Yeah.
It just didn't really seem like the right signing. It kind of felt like he was given a job to a mate, what we had criticised Lennon about Lennon. But fair play to him. He's definitely one of Ange's best signings in this summer window there. It's the same as the private passing as well.
He's one of the players as well, Ryan, when you're looking at, Celtic's transfer model at this point in time, and we're going to talk about Juranovic a wee bit later on because we've had some comments from him in the press, but he's one of those players at 32 that I think he's contracted until 2024 or something. I can honestly see a player like Aaron Moy finishing his career at Celtic as long as Ange is there. He knows him very well from his time in the international setup. His missus is from Glasgow. It just seems as if this has been a kind of perfect combination for both Aaron Moy and Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, I think I did have my doubts about Aaron Moy coming in, but I think that's due to timing as well. Now, I would say the same about Ange Postecoglou. I had doubts about him because of what had happened with Eddie Howe. I seem to remember I was being in for Vinicius Souza at the same time as signing Aaron Moy.
I remember,
so,
yep.
Putting two and two together, you're like, oh, this is a downgrade. But the thing is, Aaron Moy doesn't even play in that position, so It was a bit foolish of me to assume that. But the guy's been an absolute revelation. I mean, a free signing from Shanghai Port. Can't complain about especially after the World Cup. It's quite amazing to think that he used the World Cup as a sort of pre-season camp to get up to fitness.
Yep.
But, coming up against France and Argentina, that'll set you in good stead for coming up against your Aberdeens and Hibs in the league. But no, he's been absolutely brilliant. It's very much against sort of the model, I would say. The sort of profile, 30, 31 when he signed, 32 now. But he's been so effective in this team, and even though he's not the best talker, I think he would admit that as well. I mean, he was doing the Q&A against his own will yesterday. He was saying no comment to that.
Probably locked in a room as well, doing it.
He's probably a leader on the park as well, due to what he's done in the game. I mean, his performances for Huddersfield and Brighton in the Premier League were exemplary, I remember. So having that sort of guy in and around the dressing room will only help as well. And even after the game, you've seen all the players singing the Aaron Boy chant. It's clear they all like him. It's brilliant for the team. We've got another personality in there, even though he doesn't talk as much, that everybody likes, which is great for the team.
He'll be that kind of guy, when you go into a pub and he doesn't really say much, but he sits there and everybody wants to sit beside him and have a pint with him. He's definitely that type of guy, isn't he? Aaron Moy, that's probably his profile. Callum McGregor, I think he's worth a shout. It's based on the second goal. He did it at Ibrox. Aaron, went in a run and took 2-3 players out the game with him. Did it again on Sunday for that second goal. When he goes in the run, I think there's 2 players that go with him, and it just creates the space for Aaron Moy, Hatate, Kyogo to then go and exploit.
Yeah, and he done that a few times throughout the game. He just takes responsibility and just drives with the ball. He'll find the space. And what I find as well, watching the game back, you see so many times you see, Ryan Kent coming in to apply pressure to the Celtic back line, and Callum McGregor standing in acres and acres of space, and he gets that ball, he turns, and he's moving the ball forward to setting Celtic's attacks up. So he's brilliant on Sunday.
I think we could talk about probably each player individually, but there's a lot else in the news agenda. As I say, we've already did that reaction pod. You can see that there on Monday. I never said at the top of the show, if Ryan Fitzsimmons is watching, I'll send you the envelope and the post for having Ryan on today, just in case. I don't want any fallouts there. So if he does get a chance to watch this, an envelope's on his way to him in the post. He's blown the kitty. Aaron, there's no night out for us this year. To get Ryan on the day, that's the kitty gone. So no night out for us, unless Craig's feeling generous. Let's talk about the manager's timing. I can bring Alistair Johnston, Starfelt, Carter Vickers into the conversation, Taylor too, later on. Let's talk, Ryan, about the timing of Ange's comments this week. It was almost as if he just waited because he thought, I'm going to pick the moment here. I'm in control of the situation like he always is. I'm going to pick this moment here. He goes up to the table where the pundits are, Brian Laudrup, wee Gordon and whatever else, and he just waits for that perfect wee moment after Chris Sutton says, you're lucky, Ange. Yes, I am, mate. That perfect wee moment with Ali McCoist, who had offered in talks weeks before that he would drive him down the road to Leeds, and he says to him, can you give me a lift back to Celtic Park, mate? Absolutely brilliant.
You come at the king, you best not miss. And Ange controls this narrative. He controls the Scottish media. He is the main event. There's this sort of intimidation that Ange has got. I think it's respect, but it's also intimidation that Ange has with the rest of the Scottish media. He runs the show. This is his game up here. It's incredible to think about where we started from when people were calling us going out in the Champions League to Michelin a disaster, and him clapping back to where we are now. Everybody sings from his hymn sheet. Everybody seems to wax lyrical about Ange, and everything that he says is gospel. His comments, he's so switched on, because even though he won't rise to it in press conferences, he obviously ingests a lot of this media and a lot of the rubbish that comes out in the mainstream media. He's listening to everybody. He's reading what people are saying, and he's waiting for the perfect opportune moment to come back to people. I mean, Ali McCoist was just like, what do I do? Bending over for him almost, giving him a carry code away. Everybody's desperate for Ange to go. I mean, I've seen a great picture. They laughed at his arrival. Now they're desperate for his departure. And that is the case, because he is absolutely well and truly running the show up here.
Yeah, he's running the show. We've spoken there, Aaron, about that Viaplay moment. I think I said Premier Sports there. We're not getting sponsored by them anyway, so it doesn't matter what I call them. Premier Sports, Viaplay, whatever you want to call them. There's that many. But then it comes out, there's the comments after the game to say, I'm still here, even though people have been getting me out the door. I think you'll be surprised how long I'm here. I'm consumed by trying to make this club the best it can be, and I'll enjoy every minute of it. If sleepless nights were not becoming a thing for some Rangers fans, I think after that, the Horlick sales in Glasgow and elsewhere just became a whole lot worse, because that is not what they will want to hear. It's exactly what we want to hear.
Oh, it's what we want to hear more. He's basically saying, you're going to come out with stories about me, linking me to whatever job comes available. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. I'm coming into my third season here, and I'm going to be looking for more improvement, and just excited for the future can hold with Ange's manager. It's going to be brilliant, and look how much you've improved in 18 months. got another 18 months of that to come, and it's exciting.
It's really exciting. Ryan, it was difficult, I think, looking, last season. I think we all seen when that draw came out in the Champions League and thinking, yep, good group. Apart from Real Madrid, good group. We got a Leipzig team who became very rejuvenated at that particular point in time. I don't think that helped us at all because they were probably one of the best teams you could have faced before that in terms of, hoping to get points. You see somebody, the player, Mudryk, who I don't think was worth 100 million, but he's certainly worth a big price tag. Whenever Celtic's going to sell somebody for that, if we ever sell somebody for that, we don't know. So we see different ends of the spectrum. We had great chances in that Champions League campaign. We all know that, but it needs to be a point where you build on it. And I'm sure for the players and Ange, that's something that they're focused on looking at next season. I know we're maybe a wee bit premature in saying at the start of a match here, but it'll be in the thinking. And that's something I think he wants to do, is make his mark with Celtic in the European stage at some point. And again, looking at the profile of him, there is people within the Celtic support that are worried, that call will come and it'll be off and we'll get a repeat. It's a completely different situation to Brendan Rodgers, I think, in the sense that Brendan had been in the Premier League. That was where he wanted to get back to. He got that opportunity. Celtic received a very handsome fee for doing that. And, over the course, looking at it, didn't invest it in the right, pathway and whatnot in terms of building the club forward. But with Ange, 57, I think, at this point in time, Celtic were the team that gave him the chance to come to European football. He's got a pretty young family. He's got 2 young kids. It won't be in his mindset to think, yeah, I'm going to, jump at the first chance at a Premier League job or whatever that comes up. Because as I say, I think that all goes into his psyche. He's that type of person. And if he can make a mark here at Celtic like he tries to do at every other single football club he's been at, for this point in time, he is very much happy here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he's sort of indebted to Celtic because I seem to remember reading that AK Athens turned them down about a week before Celtic.
That's correct.
I don't know. I don't know who they've got in charge just now, but I don't think he's as good as Ange. That's for sure.
No.
Their loss is our gain, obviously. I think the job that the guy has done has been absolutely incredible. I don't think we need to worry about him going down to the Premier League unless one of the big boys, and I mean the absolute big boys, come in. And I'm talking Liverpool, Man City. I don't think he's interested in any jobs below that. And even then, I think he's the clip of Kobe Bryant seems to come up in my head. The job's not finished. He just wants to go on to the next thing. I think Europe's an unfinished business for him. I think he wants a sustained run in the Champions League or Europa League, whatever one he chooses, whatever competition he's in, and he can get to the latter stage of with Celtic. I think that's his job. That's his aim in the long term. If he can get us to third place in a good group next season, and then we can mount a serious charge on the Europa League, then I think that would be the aim. That'd be absolutely brilliant. But as long as we can win a knockout game next season, it'd be absolutely brilliant because in my Celtic supporting life, I don't think I've seen us win a knockout tie. I don't think we have. Was it 2003, 2004?
2004, Alan Thompson against Barcelona.
See, I was only 7 at the time and I wasn't really into football at that point. So
you weren't born, I was 4.
There you go. We need to bridge that gap and walk over that bridge. And I think we do have the right guy to do so. I think Bodo Glimt came too early last season. This season we were unlucky with the group, the way it panned out. Next season, I think we've suffered our wounds in Europe, and I think next season will be the season that you'll really see us push on and make strides.
Another thing you can add into that, we've spoken about the profile of the manager, is looking at Sunday's celebrations. I think for the players too, that there's not too many football clubs in world football that you'll get to go to. You get the chance of, winning silverware. You hear Alistair Johnson and Sunday saying that was his first ever medal. It was first ever trophy. It was only Aaron Moyes second at 32. You don't get that opportunity. It's great that you can go to leagues in the world, make plenty of dosh, see yourself well into the future. You can make plenty of dosh here though, as well. And again, with managers, for guys our age, the football that we consume and are used to, managers don't hang about places too long. And even if they do, they are either at a very top level, like a Klopp or a Guardiola or whatever, or they get the sack very quickly. And you've seen that, guys like a Sean Dyche, for instance, at Burnley. just to take him as an example. You know, we'd kept him up for so many seasons, but yet they're able to do the dirty on him very quickly and sack him and bin him. It's not something that's normal in football. So for Ange at this point in time, he's seen Celtic as that vehicle that's Ryan's talking about, building a legacy, building in success, leaving us in a place. But he's also probably thinking about his security. There's security around this Celtic job just now, as long as he keeps winning.
That's exactly it as well. As you say there, he has probably been offered more money elsewhere, but he wants to come. He wants to put his name in the history books, and he also wants to leave with memories that he's created for himself and for his players. And just now, that's exactly what he's doing. I mean, his first season there's talk of a treble, and yeah, we fell short in the Scottish Cup. But this season there's more talk of a treble yet again. That'd be Celtic's 5th treble in 7 years.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Incredible that. So that's what he's creating, that's what he's building. That's going to be his legacy. He's obviously wanting to stick around for that.
And it's been 3 trophies out the past 4, no matter what Michael Beale says. We're in a very good position with that, and that's just, it's great to think about it. It's great when we're looking forward. And Ryan, you know, I think some people maybe looked at Sunday as a kind of marker of a game, in the sense that had Rangers won the cup, it would give them, you know, they'd be rejuvenated to try and push a wee bit more in the title race and whatever else. Celtic winning it could spell another period of domination. I don't really think that period of domination to me has ever ended. I know that will sound daft. It'll probably get clipped up and it'll get put in something, but it really does now look like one bad season. That's all it was. Celtic are back in top, and I think that will continue again for another sustained period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. In some ways, I think us losing the 10 was the worst thing that ever happened to Rangers, because it allowed us to I know it was bad for us at the time, but it allowed us to properly refresh and rebuild the team from the bottom up. I know it was a bit of a dumpster fire with the manager coming in late in June, but it allowed us to have a fresh start, to bring these players in and start afresh, which was absolutely needed. And the domination sort of continues. It took we took an annual leave out for a year with that season, but we're back in business. I mean,
and we get a good holiday to Florida, if you want to call it that quadruple treble cup final. For looking at it, you get a really good trip away for the day.
Very, 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 very true. But what I would say as well is there was a lot of talk before the game that these teams were even. They'd closed the gap. Within 90 minutes, they're talking about rebuilds. That is how much Celtic broke them at the weekend. They're talking about throwing out basically their whole team to start afresh. So if they want to do that, then absolutely the domination will continue. But I don't think they've got the means to do so.
No, neither do I at this point in time. And you know, Martin O'Neill, I was with Martin on Saturday night at an event. I better get a chat for him for 2 minutes. And one thing he says at the actual event was that when he came in, he made the players know that at that point Rangers were the benchmark. You know, at that point in time, they had won their period of 9 in a row, unfairly, as I think everybody knows at this point in time. Celtic had stopped that, but then Rangers were back in top. They won a treble, blah blah blah. Dalglish comes in, Barnes, Dr. Joe Venglos, etc., and it doesn't quite work out. It's not really, I think, until that point, 2000, when Martin comes in and he talks about, you know, bringing a period of success to the club, that the post-Fergus McCann domination at Celtic really happens. Martin comes in, wins a treble. It's the first time I've did it since 1969, and it just kicks on from there. Under Martin, Gordon, Lenny, Ronnie, Brendan, Lenny again, back to Ange now. And just that benchmark at this point in time, I've never liked to compare ourselves to Rangers because I think, you know, look after your own affairs. But when you do contrast both situations, Celtic are in a far superior situation at this point in time. They are our nearest rivals. Sometimes you have a wee look over your shoulder. At this point in time, Celtic's looking at a squad where I think the manager probably wants them to be now. It's only going to be another couple of tweaks here and there. Whereas Michael Beale's probably sitting down with a bit of paper thinking, I need a complete overhaul here. And as well as that, you need the resources to do it. Celtic announced accounts of 50 million quid. They're going to get Champions League money banked. It's guaranteed. Rangers don't know that. They might not qualify. They might qualify for the Champions League, but we just don't know that. That becomes very difficult when you're using that word that Ryan uses there, rebuild, because even though, as Ryan says, it was good that we were able to press that restart button, the club had still been savvy and to make sure that there was money there at that point when Ange came in to spend. That situation for the club on the other side of the water just isn't the case just now.
That's exactly it. And Beale's even admitted that himself. They don't have the financial power that Celtic have, although they do have the bigger wage bill of the two clubs and so on. But no, Celtic are now the benchmark for Scottish football, and we have been for pretty much my whole lifetime. Yeah, and it's going to be hard for us.
Long
It's
may
gonna
it
be hard.
continue.
Yeah, long may it continue. It'll be hard to catch us. I'm looking forward to it.
Ryan, that picture I
Catches
painted there.
if you can.
Yeah, that's it. That picture I painted there is one that looks really, really nice at this point in time. And I'm talking about, the manager only having to make some tweaks. That is the point we're at, because I feel as if this squad is now at the point. He's got 2 players in each position, and it's only going to take maybe another 2-3 additions maybe in the summer, and that'll be it. Because even in the summer there and in that January window, we were still adding to get to that point that he was wanting us to be at. But then come the summer, it's going to be about, we've got Joe Hart as a great player, as an experienced goalkeeper. Can we get somebody better? Do we need another forward? Can we bring in another midfielder? Do we get a better centre back in? No disrespect to the guys that are in there, but I think that's the point and level that you actually start to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty exciting if you ask me. The fact that we're going to be signing players to overtake players that you like in the team.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at guys in particular, maybe guys that don't really fit the system as well as others do, guys that their contracts are running down. You look at Turnbull, etc. Even look at Abada, who I know we'll talk about. I mean, we're going to see players.
Talk about him there, Ryan, because that's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? I want to get onto that. It's a bit strange.
Yeah, I think it's been a strange one all in with Abada, even from the way it started, because you've got to remember how we got him. He was a Dudu Dahan sort of recommendation.
Yeah. Back to what Aaron was saying there earlier, help a mate out type of thing.
Yeah, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours sort of thing. That was the early doors as well. It was at that point that we needed bodies in the door by hook or by crook, basically. It's a mixed one for me. I know a lot of people absolutely love Abada, and I do too, but I still think he's not anywhere near the finished player.
No.
I don't know. I don't even think he's necessarily a winger when he plays. I think he's more of a wide forward, you would say, because I don't think he's very good at the sort of winger sort of things. He has improved recently. I think that's due to Harry Kewell. You could say the same for Dyson Maeda, but there's still plenty. He's very much a rough diamond. He scores important goals. He can sniff out a goal, but I think he's more of a forward than a winger. And he's at that age where I think he's grown up with the sort of Premier League, the ambitions of the Premier League. If a team comes in for him, then obviously the news that he's not signed a new contract. I know he's signed till 2026, but it's going to get to the point where Ange is just going to move him on anyway. That's just what happens. And with Ange saying that we're going to be aggressive in the transfer market, that includes the younger players as well. I mean, if offers come in for Abada that suit our sort of price range, then Ange is going to move him on, and we'll get somebody in to replace him, no doubt better.
And that's the confidence you've got now, Ryan. And it's something that we've maybe not been used to adding is, marquee signing out the door, cheerio, and then trying to replace him maybe with somebody that's a wee bit more in the price range. That's not really been the case when somebody's moved on, like a Josip Juranovic, and a nice seamless transition into that. We bring in somebody like Alistair Johnson, who was excellent. And Juranovic's quotes in the press today, very strange. I thought, and me and Ryan were having a wee chat about it before we came on. It was interesting to note that it was Celtic. It wasn't just a kind of two-way thing, that Celtic were happy for him to go, and Juranovic was pushing for the move. Juranovic says something along the lines of, he was sad or upset that Celtic didn't try harder to keep a hold of him. But Celtic had obviously got to a point where they see a younger model in Alistair Johnson, who's came in, been absolutely seamless, who's going to have market value, and they thought, post-World Cup, let's cash in.
Yeah, that's it as well. But I think that was a bit strange from Juranovic. Celtic would have loved to have kept him, and even said he had a great chat with Ange Postecoglou don't know how great a manager he was. But I'm wondering if Janovic is maybe thinking he wasn't getting the wages he was hoping for, and that's how
Yep.
negotiations in the contract kind of broke down. So I wonder if that's what he means when he says didn't do enough to keep him, because I'm sure they'll love to have kept him.
Yeah.
Oh,
And Ryan,
interesting.
sorry, Aaron.
I'll just bring it back to Abada, sorry. He's since left that Han, and he's now with Janovic's agent, who engineered that sort of move for Janovic. So I kind of feel that that's going to kind of play out over the next few windows anyway.
Two big bold calls in here. We've had Rio Hatate's Lubo, and Aaron's given us quite a good insight into maybe what could happen with Liel Abada. This is a quote here, Ryan. I was a little bit sad Celtic didn't try to keep me as a player there. But that is football. You can't know your future. As I said, I think Aaron's bang on with the wages, and you can't have one player. You start to give one player the wages that are demanding, it breaks your wage structure, and you can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they've been watching me on Football Manager, that's for sure, because after about 2 seasons, I'll be giving somebody 80-90k a week just to come in and score 40 goals for me. You can't break the wage structure. The most important thing in this Celtic team is the system, in my opinion. It's not any individual player. The system is the be all and end all, because no matter what player you put in there, the system's got to play the way it's supposed to play. For Juranovic, it's such a weird one. It just gives me vibes of like if you're going with somebody and then the ex pipes up and says, "Oh, I miss you." It's a bit of a weird one for me. I don't know. The thing is, he was 27 going on 28. We had to cash in at some point. You see it across the road at Barisic. They can't punt Barisic. I'm using the Croatian example. He's 30, 31 now. He's got no resale value. He's got no resale value whatsoever. And I think it's worked out well for both parties, if you ask me. I heard a lot of people saying it was a sideward step. I'm like, the Bundesliga is not a sideward step for any player, in my opinion.
They're challenging for the title, Union Berlin.
Yeah. I know they were unlucky last week with their defeat. I think they get beat off of Bayern Munich, was it?
3-0.
I think they lost 3-0. But Union Berlin, they're a team going places. And I think it's a great move for Juranovic. It's a short career. The way his moves have worked, he's only stayed for a season and a half, apart from Hajduk split. It's a great move for him, playing in the Bundesliga, testing himself against the world's best, or some of the world's best in Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Leipzig, etc. So I think it's worked out for all parties. He's playing there in the prime of his career, and we've brought a younger model in who's 24 and who's fitting in very well, if you ask me.
Other things in the news this week, obviously the Asian Cup dates were announced, so no really need to go over that. Celtic, if they do want, will be able to postpone the games if that's going to be an issue. Mikey Johnson switching to Ireland. It'd be interesting to see how he gets on in terms of internationally, if that'll be something that maybe the manager might pay attention to. Just lastly, we play St Mirren on Sunday. Aaron, they're the only team to beat us in the league. I think that's 1 in 58 games in the league, St Mirren, and that only we won. I hope it's no repeat of the last time. I don't think it will be. As I said earlier, I think our squad's at a very different point in time, and St Mirren will be facing a very different challenge on Sunday in Paisley.
Yeah, they will be. And also, if you look back the last time as well, we had rotated the squad, but our back four was Ralston, Jens, Welsh, and Taylor. And 3 of those 4, you can say definitely won't start. I think Johnson will keep his place. I think we'll see Carter Vickers and Starfield both start as well. And as you know, they've not lost a league game when they started together. So it gives you a good bit of confidence going into this one.
Yeah, good solid foundation. And Ryan, I always like it when we've got that wee bit of time off after a cup final. Obviously last season, if you remember right, we played Hibs and then it was right into it was St Mirren, funnily enough, and we drew 0-0.
Yeah, it was.
And I think the team was lambasted with COVID. I think Owen Moffat ended up actually playing for Celtic that night. I think it's always good when you've got that wee bit of time off that the players get to enjoy that bit of the cup final. And it's just, again, the manager asking them, go again for me. And Sunday, I think there might be a wee bit of rotation at the squad to freshen up. Maybe a Matt O'Reilly and maybe an Iwata. You never know. Even getting some game time off the bench. But I don't think we'll have the problems that we had the last time. The big question is, though, are we going to wear that silver kit again?
That's the question. we need to mark it at some point. I mean, I remember we had that silver and pink top that we didn't even wear at all at any point. It was one of those kits that was just, it's been lost to the archives now, you could say. I think going into this game, it's the only ground that Ange hasn't won at. It's Celtic manager when you think about it. I think that's right. I think in the
That's right.
2-3 games,
Yep.
that'll be in his head. I mean, he won't say it. He won't say it to any of the journalists. That'll be in his head. He'll be like, right, I need to win it. That's it. You don't want it to become his sort of Livingston and sort of the bogey ground that you're worried about coming to, because it is a good surface. It's just tight. I think one of the big pluses as well, at least for us, is the fact that Ayunga won't be playing. Ayunga was a massive problem for us in that game earlier on in the season. He's just undertaken an operation, so he won't be playing. It'll more likely be Tony Watt and
Curtis Main.
And you know what Curtis Main is like. He's a limited footballer, but he gets himself about the park and he puts on 100% every time. But as Aaron said, Starfelt and Carter Vickers haven't lost a game in the league that they've played together. So I've got every hope that they can deal with whatever's thrown at them.
They seem to quite enjoy that battle the last time, both of them, in the Scottish Cup game too. So, yep, very different position I think both teams are in here. And as you say, I think 0-0, beaten 2-0, I think this game will be the one that we make amends. And James, thank you very much for joining me on here. We'll have you back on. Good that we're chatting about Celtic. As always, to anybody that's watching, thanks for tuning in. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back with plenty more Celtic content over the next week. We've got the game in the League away to St Mirren, and we've got Hearts midweek, and then we'll be back on previewing the Scottish Cup tie. Ryan, Aaron, cheers for that, and we'll catch up soon. All right, guys?
Cheers.